As of this year, we've been fortunate enough to visit all 12 Disney parks in the world. As someone who would consider myself more a theme park fan than a Disney fan, I can't help but admit that when it comes to theme parks, Disney truly does it best. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, if you've checked out any of my past videos on the Disney parks, I'm not blind to the park's issues. There are certainly non-Disney parks out there that are better than Disney's worst. But better than Disney's best, I personally don't think so. Now, there are parks that come close, but fall short largely due to the fact that Disney are working with a budget that most can't even come close to rivaling. With all the parks relatively fresh in my mind, I thought I'd do a video ranking them from my personal worst to my personal best. Now, this is all very opinion based, and like with anything, what I want from a theme park might not be the same as you, so please feel free to disagree. In fact, I'd love to see any rankings in the comments below, whether you want to rank them all or just a few. So without any further ado, let's get into my rankings. Let's begin with 12th place. One of the easiest spots to fill on this list. The worst Disney park in the world by far is the Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris. I'm sure this comes as absolutely no surprise. Notorious for being an ugly mess, this really is a theme park with very few redeeming factors. Now, that's not to say that there isn't anything I like about this park. I actually really enjoy their version of Tower of Terror, which in recent years has seen the addition of new videos featuring a young ghost girl. As a big fan of horror, particularly ghost stories, I really enjoy that this attraction now has this unique and actually rather creepy storyline. But beyond this, there's not much else to say. Crush's Coaster and Ratatouille are both fine. Then, if you've watched my video on Disney's California Adventure Park, you won't be shocked to hear that I'm far from a fan of Avengers Campus. In fact, I think this one is actually the worst. Thankfully, this park is currently undergoing some huge changes. Long overdue, perhaps this will finally lift this park from the bottom of everyone's list. The Lion King Land certainly does look spectacular. If you want more of a rant on why this park just doesn't work, I'll leave a link in the description to my video called Walt Disney Studios Park, Can Disney Save Their Worst Park? Now, 11th on my list is a bit more of a controversial one, and I would like to say that there is a huge gap between 12 and 11, then less of a gap between 11 and 10 and even 9. So currently, 11th on my list is Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World Resort. Opening as Disney's MGM Studios in 1989, the park was originally themed to an idealized version of Hollywood and focused on how movie magic was made. Alongside the construction of the theme park, Disney also built a working movie studio, including a functioning backlot. Today though, the park has moved away from its focus on movie making and in the process has become a bit of a mess, featuring attractions themed to a variety of IPs that Disney have acquired over the last 10 to 20 years. The park's production facilities were removed throughout the 2000s, and many of the park's sound stages were retrofitted for new attractions, and the park was also renamed Hollywood Studios in 2008. Although the park is home to some fantastic attractions such as Rise of the Resistance and Tower of Terror, it still needs more, and the mishmash of theming now present in the park is a sad reflection of how modern Disney seem to keep neglecting the cohesive theming which once made their park so special. I'm gonna plug another past video here, all about the failure of movie parks, which I think will add a lot of explanation for my 11th and 12th picks. In spot number 10 is the final Disney park that I had left to visit, Hong Kong Disneyland. This park and the resort as a whole is pretty small, but it's also rather unique. With Fantasyland Dart Rides, Space Mountain, It's a Small World, The Jungle Cruise and more, it is more of a traditional Disney castle park than Shanghai Disneyland. But with Mystic Manor in place of Haunted Mansion, the Grizzly Gulch Mountain Runaway Minecars in place of Big Thunder Mountain, and the Marvel attractions in Tomorrowland, there are lots that make it special. The Grizzly Gulch Mountain Runaway Minecars and Mystic Manor both absolutely blew me away, as did the stunning new castle which pays tribute to every single Disney princess. Add to this Frozen Land, which looks straight out of the movies, and you've got more than enough that makes the park well worth the trip. Honestly, this is where the list starts to get hard, as there's not much that I can criticize about this park other than that it's a little bit small. 9th on my list, and just by a fraction, is Disney's California Adventure. Located opposite Disneyland, the park opened in 2001, and it's fair to say that the initial reviews of the park were incredibly negative. Theming across much of the park looked cheap and tacky, and as well as this, DCA opened with some of the weirdest and worst Disney attractions ever built. Recognizing this problem, Disney continued to add to the park, and then in 2007, they announced a massive overhaul of the park, which was eventually completed in 2012. This included both the opening of Buena Vista Street and Cars Land, our favorite IP-based land Disney have ever built. In fact, if it wasn't for Cars Land, there's no way this park would have ranked quite so high on my list. Actually, for a period after 2012, we absolutely loved California Adventure, and it would at one point have been ranked much higher. But unfortunately, in more recent years, Disney have made changes to the park, such as the addition of Avengers Campus and the retheme of Paradise Pier to Pixar Pier, that have again made the park feel disjointed and a little bit tacky in our opinion. Again, I've got a whole video on this topic, which I'll leave linked in the description. In 8th place, we have Shanghai Disneyland. This is the park that I've visited least recently, so I am ranking it without having experienced the new Zootopia area for myself. But even without this, the park is so full of unique attractions and theming that it absolutely blew me away back in 2019. Pirates of the Caribbean Battle for the Sunken Treasure lived up to every little bit of hype, and still remains probably my favourite dark ride in the world. Although there is now competition from Rise of the Resistance and a certain Frozen attraction that I'll discuss later on. There are certain areas of this park that lack a bit in detail, which is what keeps it from ranking any higher. I'd also say that the park could use a few more attractions, but I'm sure this will come with time. 7th, we have Disneyland Paris. This is the first park that I really consider to be top tier. Disneyland Paris is one of the most beautiful theme parks in the world. In trying to live up to the European expectation, Disney created a park that is full of endless detail and stunning areas to explore. Its Frontierland is my favourite in the world, home to the Best Big Thunder Mountain and the beautiful Phantom Manor. Adventureland is full of gorgeous rockwork, the selection of dark rides in Fantasyland is perfect, and the Jules Verne-esque theming of Discoveryland has always been something that I'm incredibly fond of. Sadly, this theme has been a bit blurred with additions such as Star Tours and Buzz Lightyear, but still, what remains is absolutely spectacular. I also can't not mention Main Street, with its gas lamp lit back passages, and the truly beautiful Sleeping Beauty's castle, home to the world-famous Sleeping Dragon. Sadly, this park is starting to feel a little bit stale, as it's gone so long without a new attraction, and yet again another D23 has passed with nothing being announced. Again, this is a park that I'll leave a link to a video in the description if you wish to learn more about this forgotten Disney park. In 6th place, we have Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom. Having opened on October 1st, 1971, today it's the most attended theme park in the world, attracting over 17 million guests annually. In recent years, many Disney fans seem to have been very critical of the Magic Kingdom, complaining about issues such as the park being too busy, and noting that areas of the park are starting to feel tired and dated. Although I do agree with some of these opinions, it's important not to forget how many superb attractions are present within the park. The park has a huge variety of attractions, from roller coasters such as Tron Light Cycle Run and Space Mountain, to more relaxing attractions such as the People Mover, Country Bear Jamboree, and Carousel of Progress. Like most Disney parks, it's also home to some fantastic dark rides, including the Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean. Next up, taking 5th place, is Epcot. Admittedly, most of the heavy lifting of this park is done by the World Showcase, but there is still enough that we love within the rest of the park to have it ranked so high. First off, we'll admit that we've had our issues with the addition of Disney movie characters to the park. For example, we really enjoy Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind as a standalone coaster, but having it at Epcot still feels wrong in our opinion. However, despite the park's new direction, there is still so much that we love about Epcot. Both Spaceship Earth and Living with the Land are true Epcot classics, and must-dos every time we visit. Soarin' and Test Track are both fantastic, and then of course there's the World Showcase, probably our favourite section of any Disney park in America. The theme of each pavilion is truly breathtaking, and Little beats spending the afternoon strolling around the World Showcase, sampling the atmosphere, and of course having a bite to eat and a drink or two. I'm also a huge fan of Epcot's festivals, particularly Food and Wine and the Festival of the Arts. Yet again, I've got a couple of videos on this park that I'll leave linked in the description. 4th is a park that has moved up quite a lot on my list in recent years, which is Animal Kingdom. The park opened on Earth Day, April the 22nd in 1998. and was the fourth theme park built at Walt Disney World. Incorporating hundreds of live animals safely into a theme park was an incredible challenge, but what Disney achieved here was truly astonishing. The theming throughout the park, excluding the soon-to-be-changed Dinoland USA, is impeccable, and truly shows what Disney can do when the Imagineers are left to design and create immersive environments. When the park first opened, it was lacking a few major attractions, but since the addition of Expedition Everest and more recently Flight of Passage, the park now has a really strong ride lineup. Add to this the future plan of Tropical Americas, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this park move up on my list even further. Overall, Animal Kingdom feels like the most complete park in Walt Disney World. It has superb and consistent theming, some fantastic rides, and some really great dining options. You might have noticed that so far, one Disney resort is missing. That would of course be Tokyo. With this being said, in third place is Tokyo Disneyland. So yeah, if you do the math, that means that both of this resort's parks are ranking in my top 3. It feels like a bit of a cliche to say in the Disney fan community, but truly, no other Disney resort does Disney quite like Tokyo. Home to a mixture of classic Disney attractions and some unique and incredible dark rides, this park is near perfect. Pooh's Honey Hunt and the Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast are both brilliant, and exactly the kind of thing we want to see Disney building more of. Add to this the themed food, incredible cast members, and a good array of more classic Disney attractions, and you've got what feels like a more relaxed version of Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom. Now, my number 1 and 2 spots are essentially pretty equal, but as I'm trying to be as objective as possible, something admittedly impossible when making a completely subjective ranking list, I'm gonna have to give spot number 2 to Disneyland. This is the original Disney park, having opened in 1955, and it's the only open Disney park ever visited by Walt Disney himself. It's this history that I think makes Disneyland feel so special. The park absolutely oozes with it. Home to original, now classic Disney attractions such as Peter Pan's Flight, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, The Haunted Mansion, and Pirates of the Caribbean. I really don't think that you can beat getting to experience the original rides, which were ridden or just worked on by the late Walt Disney. Over the years, and despite space restrictions, the park has continued to expand, not least with the recent addition of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, home to the incredible attraction Rise of the Resistance. Not just home to great attractions, Disneyland is also home to some of our favourite quick service options, including Bengal barbecue and the delicious beignets available in New Orleans Square. So that leaves my number 1 spot to Tokyo Disney Sea. This park's reputation more than precedes it, and it does feel a little too obvious to put it as number 1, but it has this reputation for a reason. The level of theming within this park is just mind-blowing. Most Disney parks are anchored around just one large-scale theming icon, but Tokyo Disney Sea offers so many stunning icons that it's hard to say that it just has one. There's a huge cruise ship, the most intricate Tower of Terror, and of course, the true icon, the erupting volcano. This excess upon the skyline really does exemplify the ridiculousness that is this park. But in addition to these big things, every little detail is also perfect. Mysterious Island takes the Jules Verne look of Disneyland Paris's Discoveryland and makes this look like an amateur attempt. The Mediterranean Sea is like a gigantic and more detailed Epcot World Showcase pavilion. The New York waterfront is so full of detail that even having been to the park many times, I still feel like there's loads more to see. Port Discovery and Lost River Delta are likewise beautiful and unique areas. Then there's the Arabian Coast and Mermaid Lagoon, perfect spots for fans of either Aladdin or The Little Mermaid. And finally, there's the brand new addition of Fantasy Springs, with areas dedicated to Frozen, Tangled, and Peter Pan. This new land absolutely blew me away, and brings me on to another good point. Tokyo Disney Sea isn't just good because of the theming. The park is also packed with world-class attractions. In fact, the new Frozen ride here might just be the best dark ride in the world. Add to this Journey to the Center of the Earth, Tower of Terror, Indiana Jones, Sinbad's Voyage, Aquatopia, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and you have a near-perfect array of attractions. Even in listing these off, I've barely scratched the surface. So with this, it's not unfair to say that Tokyo Disney Sea is the most incredible theme park ever built. Well, there you have it. That's my ranking of every Disney park in the world. If I'm being honest, it's far from set in stone, and I'm sure in a couple of months or even days, I'll wish I could rejig it just a little bit. But for now, I'll say that I'm pretty happy with this list. Once again, I'd love to see anyone else's rankings, so please leave them in the comments. Whether you've been to every park, just want to rank the ones you've been to, or want to guess at where you'd put even the ones you haven't yet experienced, go for it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and check out some of my other videos, especially those that I've referenced here and linked in the description.